Hello, so I am Ben and this is Emily from Icing Pop. I have been this morning doing some training around kind of health and safety and some practical elements to do with events and that sort of stuff with the Icing Pop team today.
Yes, as Ben says, I'm Emily. I'm from Icing Pop. Icing Pop is a primary school singing, recording and resourcing project.
Yep, and so I've been working with the Icing Pop team for a number of years, doing some of the events in the schools with the kids. And I would love to encourage you, if you are looking for resources for your kids in your church, go and check out the Icing Pop channel with Emily. She's got loads of great YouTube videos that you can go and have a look at. But that's it from us. Have a look at this training and hopefully you'll find it helpful for you in your churches. So the second thing I was going to run through is some cable coiling. Yes. I'm pleased that there are some positive responses to that. That's great. Okay, so there is one way, in my opinion, there is one way to coil cables. However, I do make an exception depending on the length of the cable. Okay, so if it's less than 10 meters, this isn't essential. But if it's an over 10 meters cable, this is an essential way to coil a cable. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to divide different cables into their lengths. As I say, up to 10 meters. We can kind of get away with not doing this for 10 meter cable. Anything up to 10 meters, over 10 meters, we need to be doing that. There are 3 rules as well when it comes to coiling a cable. I'm just going to pick one that I can demonstrate some of these things to you. So number 1 rule for coiling a cable, these are kind of not to do. So the first thing not to do when you're coiling a cable is we're not going to wrap it around our elbow. Okay, that is the quickest and best way to break a cable. We're never going to coil a cable that way. The second thing we need to do is a cable must be neat. So this is an absolute no-no, okay? Yeah, we're not going to do that. That's never going to happen. And there's a good reason for it, because this will actually take up more space than a neatly coiled cable will. And we're limited on space. Quite a lot of the technical people are transporting kit in their cars, and those cars are absolutely packed with stuff, and we do not have the space in vehicles to be taking cables that don't fit in boxes because they're not coiled properly. So there's a reason behind it being a no. Okay, so we need to make sure cables are neatly coiled, and they must be the correct size for the box that they're going in as well. And I may have not quite done this right, but if you've got a box that the cables are going to go in and the cable's too long and it's not going to fit, then again, we're just going to damage that cable by forcing it into that box. So it needs to be the size of the container that it's going to go into as well, so not too big. Otherwise, again, it's just not going to work. So the cable technique that I'm going to teach you for over 10 meters, absolutely essential for over 10 meters, less than 10 meters, it's an optional. It's called the over-under cable coiling technique, and it is a little bit technical, but I'll walk you through it. So the idea is we're going to do, so probably what most of you will know as a cable coil, we're going to do a little twist, make the loop, twist, make the loop, twist, make the loop. Yeah, everybody familiar with making a coil that way? Yeah. Now the issue with that is we're constantly twisting that cable. Okay, which means that once you've done a few twists on that cable, as you come to pull it out, that cable is going to get twisted and coiled, and it means it's not going to lie flat when you run it along the floor. It's going to create trip hazards. It's also going to damage that cable. Constantly twisting it all the time means that the cable inside is going to get fractured, and that cable over time is going to break. So what we're going to do is we're going to alternate the way that we twist our cable. So we do a twist in one direction. So for me, I start by twisting the cable away from myself from the first loop. The second loop, I'm then going to twist the cable towards myself and create a loop in the opposite direction. And now what my cable will do is it's actually going to sit underneath my first loop. I don't know if everybody can see this. So I do one loop over the top, twist it towards myself, and now the cable comes underneath and creates the second loop underneath. So you've got an over loop and then an under loop, over, under, over, under. So twist it away from myself, twist it towards myself, away, towards. Yeah? Makes sense? Clear as mud? Yeah. Any questions? Yes.
That's great. No, it is. And what do we do when Mr. Man, who used to work in an electric company or whatever and knows what he's doing, is like, I'll help you. And then how do we politely be like, no?
Again, it's a really good question because it is very difficult and it happens so much. You know, we get loads of willing volunteers in churches and people just want to help and all of that. I think what I would say is try to push them towards a pile of smaller cables because it's less of an issue on smaller cables. The part of the reason for going for smaller cables is because those twists that build up can quite easily be pulled out again later on a smaller cable. If it's really long, that's when it becomes really hard to get rid of those twists. So just point to a pile of smaller cables and say, yeah, great, there you go. Coil those ones up, that would be great. Yeah, hopefully the idea will be that we can try and find some jobs that are suitable for people to take on. Any other questions on cable coiling?
Can I ask about, so I cable coil all the time and I just follow the cables, twists and turns.
Yeah.
Is that not okay, or is it, because I'm like, oh, when I'm doing that, when we do that, we might not working with the cable in that case.
Yeah.
So we ditch that rule of going with the cable, or?
So it is a logical line of thinking, and there is a time and a place for that. For me, I think if you're in a sort of, say, a studio environment where you're not having to pack them into cases, because the issue is if you follow the natural way that the cable wants to coil, you often end up with a cable that looks a bit like that, where the cables are all a bit twisted and it's figure of eights and not quite going to sit neatly. So it then means that they don't pack into a case very easily. So I would suggest not. I mean, if you can do it in a way that still means that you can get them neatly in a case, then sure, go for it. But it's far more suited to an environment where you're just going to coil the cable up and then hang it on a peg on the wall or something like that, and then it's all fine. But when you're in an environment where you're moving cables from one...
That's the only way you do it, yeah.
Personally, I would say so, yeah.
So obviously we've got different types of cables. Is there a different way that you want us to do, the extensions that have got the 4 plugs?
Sure.
Because often you can either coil them from the thing, or you get people who wrap them around.
Wrap them round, yeah, absolutely, yes.
So do you have a preference when it comes to...
Yeah, so my preference is for it to be like that. So one of the things I don't like is if you plug a plug, so any cables that come back connected into themselves is not a great thing because you put pressure on that connection. And so again, it's something that happens quite often. I see it quite a lot actually with this type of cable. So where you might have that connected into the end of that, and it will come back to me like that. That is just a big lever with loads of pressure on that plug. And so if that gets chucked into a case like that, that will just break that plug. So try to unplug everything, don't bring anything back plugged into itself. Yep.
The box, this is going to make no sense. The box, and then it comes from the mixing desk, and it's got all the wires, and it's a multi-thing.
Yes, multicore, yes.
Really interesting.
Yep.
What do we do? Just uncoil it. Let the sun, okay.
Yeah, they are. Multicores are very difficult to coil. Yes, that is one of the things actually from all of this is, if in doubt, ask. And if you're not certain about doing it, don't do it. So yeah, anything that you just feel like, I don't know about this, then probably assume it's not your job to do it. Because it's, it's a really good point, yeah.
And from our point of view, if